Okay, good morning, guys. I hope you are all doing well and you've had a good night. So, today, for the lesson of today, we will be discussing compound interest. As you know already, we have finished with simple interest. So, today we will focus on compound interest. But before we jump into questions and exercises and example, I would like to bring to your attention how compound interest differ from simple interest. So the first thing is that whenever we talk about compound interest, is that the interest will never be the same over the period of the length of the loan. So interest will always change. For example, if you calculate interest for the first year, that interest will be totally different for the interest of the second year, so it won't be the same. The next thing that you have to keep in mind is that the amount of interest will keep increasing. So there's no way you can get the interest from the second year equal to the interest of the first year or less than that. So the interest amount will keep up increasing. The next is that interest is no more only calculated on the original amount. Interest is also calculated on the interest you have earned previously. So if you keep that in mind, you have to understand that the principal will keep changing from one period to another. The amount calculated per period, the amount used to calculate interest per period will change. We have said that already. So we have to just to keep that in mind when we want to calculate simple interest. Then we move to an example to explain whatever we have said before that. We are going to go to an example, and our example is if you just check your worksheet, you are going to see that you have it with you already. So the example is 130,000 is invested with compound interest at 12% per year for 3 years. So we invested 130,000 for 3 years at 12% compounded yearly. So that is the first thing we have to keep in mind, is that when we look at this example, the 130 rand represent our principal. The term of the loan is 3 years, and the interest rate is 12% compounded yearly. So you must make that sure that you understand it's compounded yearly, because interest can be compounded quarterly, half yearly, daily, monthly. So not only yearly, you have to know that. So our first question is calculate the total interest earned by the investment. So I've invested 130,000 for 3 years at 12% compounded yearly. How much is my interest after the 3 years? So that is the question. And to work on that, we just have to know that for the first year, which is year one, the way we calculate interest is like we are calculating simple interest. So in year one, the interest for year one will be 130,000, which is the principal, times 12 over 100, which is the interest rate, times 1. So after doing that calculation, after we have finished with that calculation, we should say that in year one our interest is 15,600. So that is how we calculate for year one. Now the problem comes when we are calculating the year two. In year two, we have said it already that the principal will change. So in year two, we cannot use 130,000, because that is the interest, that is the principal we use in year one. So it will change in year two. So how do we get the principal in year two? The principal in year two is the principal in year one plus the interest in year one. So in this case, it's 130,000 plus 15,600. So we take the principal in year one, which is 130,000, plus the interest in year one, which is 15,600. So when we do that calculation, we are going to see that in year two, the principal will be 145,600. So that is the principal for year two. So the interest now in year two will be 145,600 times 12 over 100 times 1. Then after doing the calculation, our interest in year two is 17,472 rand. That is the interest in year two. Then we move to the next year. We move to the next year, which is the third year, and that is the final year in this case, because our loan lasts for 3 years, not more. So in year 3, then what will be our principal? That is always the question that you must ask yourself when you move from one period to another. From year 1, there's a principal. In year 2, there will be a principal different from year 1, and in year 3, there will be another principal which is different from year 2. So in this case, what is our principal in year 3? Our principal in year 3 is the principal in year 1, in year 2, sorry. Our principal in year 3 is the principal in year 2 plus the interest earned in year 2. So in this case, our principal in year 2 was 145,600, and the interest earned was 17,472. So in total, we are going to have 145,600 plus 17,472. So in that case, the total the principal in year 3 will be now 163,072. That is the principal that we are going to use to calculate the interest in year 3. So the interest in year 3 now will be 163,072 times 12 over 100 times 1. So if after doing the calculation is 19,568.64. That is our interest in year 3. Now the question was to calculate the total interest earned for the investment after 3 years. The total interest earned for the investment after 3 years. So in our case, the total interest can only be the interest earned in year 1 plus the interest earned in year 2 plus the interest earned in year 3, which is 15,600 plus 17,472 plus 19,568.64. So after doing the calculation correctly, our total interest earned after 3 years should be 52,640.64. That is the total interest. Then we move to the last question, which was to calculate the total amount that the investment has earned. So what is the total amount, the value of the investment after 3 years? So guys, the value of the investment is always the original amount that you have invested plus the interest you have earned over the period of the investment. So in our case, we have invested 130,000 rand for 3 years, and we have earned an interest of 52,640.64. So in this case, the value of our investment will be 130,000 plus 52,640.64. So in total, the investment has given us 182,640.64. That is the value of the investment. So we are going to stop here for now, while coming back later for example number 2. Thank you.